Uh, my name is Mike Minitelli. I'm your MC for this session, and at this time, I have the opportunity to introduce multiple of my favorite colleagues, all who will have an amazing amount of patience because they put up with me every day. First up, I have Mary Davis. She serves in leadership as an Assistant Director of Sponsored Programs, the Award Management Division at UCF. She has a Master of Research Administration and has been working in the field of research administration since 2015. Mary has worked many aspects of research administration, including financial compliance, proposals, and award management. We have Brenda Jackson, who has a master's in business administration with several years of experience in grant management, financial reporting, system implementation, and auditing. She has worked with city government, secondary education, the healthcare, and insurance industries. We have Shan Lucas. She obtained her master's in public administration from UCF, Go Knights. She worked as a post-award 2 manager in the Office of Research. Her background is in social services and finance. She joined the research community May 10th of this year. We have Tamaria Mace, serves in leadership as an assistant director of sponsored programs here at UCF in the sub-awards division. She has a master's of business administration and is a certified research administrator, a CRA. She serves as the project manager for the FDP Faculty Engagement Working Group and has worked in the research administration field since 2008. We have Cassandra Maldonado. She obtained her master's in nonprofit management and philanthropy from Bay Path University. She joined award management in June of 2020. Her experience includes grant writing, fundraising, and database management. And last but not least, I have Deanna Negron Reyes. She's a PhD candidate in college education at the University of Florida. Don't know who that is. More recently, Ms. Negron Reyes transitioned from her grant director role to award management in August of 2021. She's our newest team member. Her professional framework focuses on an asset-based model that prioritizes changing the language of deficit into the language of assets and potential. Wow, that was a lot. All right, let's get started. All right. Bear with me 1 second. Hey, Elizabeth.
Yes, Mike.
Their team can't unmute. It says they need permission to unmute.
They should be able to. Let's check.
Thank you.
Please try again.
All right. There we go.
There we go.
Yay, thank you.
All right, so sorry for the technical difficulties there. So I'm Shan Lucas, again, as Mike said, and we're here to welcome you to the conversation. We are going to be talking about customer service, communication, and collaboration, learning research administration in a virtual environment. So our goal for our roundtable discussion today is for us to talk about some of the challenges and best practices of learning research administration in a virtual environment. And we fully intend to engage you, the audience, in the conversation. So we'll be putting up some slides for you to be able to share your perspective. Make sure you take advantage of the chat and let us know how it's been for you learning research administration in a virtual environment. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on over to Cassie.
Let's go ahead and maybe go on to the next slide, please. Thank you. And let's go to one more slide, please. Beautiful. Thank you so much. So we're going to be starting the discussion, Deanna, Shannon, and I, on our backgrounds and how that has helped us in our current role post-award management. And we want to engage you as well by asking you what your experience has been learning post-award or research administration virtually. And we'll be monitoring those responses and throughout our discussion. So I'll start us off by saying that I came from a nonprofit management background, working within a grants office and more so on a pre-award level. And I believe that provided me with the foundation just for my current role in post-award management, in the sense of understanding, what I was reading within an award, the importance of deadlines, understanding the framework of which a project needed to be completed by what our funding agency, provided us with. That's essential in what we do now, especially when it comes to managing the award. So learning all the other aspects of award management that I had no knowledge of, I will say that our fellow colleagues, and I can speak for all three of us, they have done such a phenomenal job in just guiding us and teaching us, the ins and outs of an award. And, from the various types of funding that we receive. I came from just working with grants, and now I'm working with grants, state and federal funding.
Private.
Private funding, yes. Looking at a budget in context of what has been approved by the sponsor and understanding that the rules for various agencies, it's different across the board. And one specific helpful guidance is our 2 CFR 200, which I brought with me here. This really is helpful for our, postal, understanding the postal award, just requirements, what is allowable, what is not allowable on federal awards. All of those things really have been just beneficial just in my learning. And just being able to learn this from, Zoom, being able to learn this from Teams. Our colleagues have done just a great job in making the time and giving us the opportunity to ask just essential questions of the things that we need to know for our jobs.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I love the fact that you have the 2 CFR 200 here. It is literally our Bible in post-award management. So I thought that was a nice little touch that she had that there. So Mike, if you want to go ahead and read some of the comments from the audience, has anyone commented on what their experience has been like learning research administration in a virtual environment?
Yes, I was actually typing a little bit to follow up on someone's. Oz in particular, I have to tip my hat to our Office of Research leadership here at UCF, because they have literally bent over backwards to get us everything we need to make sure that our remote environments we could thrive in. Absolutely, and that's been amazing. It really helps with everything that we have to do. It takes one less stressor off our plates. Let's see, we have Matilda said my transition was smooth as we were on a partially work remote from home model to begin with, and I was equipped with everything I needed to get the job done.
Fantastic.
It's nice to have all the things you need, for sure.
Definitely. I really feel like, the key piece that you spoke about was the leadership team being there to support us in that transition. I actually started in the virtual environment, I onboarded virtually. So it has been amazing learning and navigating all of this virtually. So let's go ahead and hear from some more of our speakers. So Deanna, how was it for you learning research administration in a virtual environment?
Well, for me, part of my background included some experience or an exposure to working with grants. I have worked in higher education a little bit over 25 years, and it has been the last 8 years of my professional journey that I was more immersed in grants. And at the beginning was at the early stages of doing the research, collecting the data to be able to write the proposal and submit the proposal. And that is all valuable information to transition into this role. Later on, and I came into UCF 5 years ago, just a couple of weeks ago was my 5-year anniversary. And yes, and I came for a different role in award management, and it was as a program manager. And so in there, I had to use and develop some of the knowledge in terms of understanding the award, the framework of the award, what was allowed, what was not allowed, the contract that we have with our funding source, that you are providing these services and our commitment is to provide this, this, and this, and keeping track of what was permissible, what was, we have to do this. And there were some things that were required, some things that were permissible, some things that were not permissible. And so to be able to understand that and relate that to the rest of the team. I also was able to develop knowledge in terms of budget development and budget management. And I think that all that allows me to better understand now in my current role, transitioning virtually. I think that earlier we were having a discussion and I was mentioning that there has been some positives and some things that have been challenging. And for me, because I was coming from a management role, we were in an open office environment. So in that open office environment where there were no divisions, me being the program manager, everybody had access to me. So then there will be 30 different interruptions in the middle of me working with, a report that was due at 5 o'clock. So sometimes I would have to end the day after 5 to then proceed to do other things that were on my schedule because I wasn't able to tackle it due to the multiple interruptions that were needed and necessary, but it was just the easy access. Now that I transition virtually and I'm in a different role, I love the ability that I have to focus, especially in this new role. Sometimes I need to invest 2, 3, 4 hours into researching the history of an entire award, looking at the documents and learning how the documents for this funding agency are different from a different funding agency. And so all that takes time, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to work in more focused environment and have control, because even if someone is Skyping me or calling me, I have the control to say, I'm in a meeting or I'm focused now on something, I'll get to you later. For me, I see both. I see the benefit and I see the challenges.
So I can definitely see one of those key differences because, we were talking to Mary earlier, and one of the culture of post-award is that, when we're in office, we're able to just say, hey, you know what's your idea on this? Or come look at this. But for all of us, now that we're working virtually and now that we're learning research administration, we don't have that ability, right? So we are having to really rely on each other. That's where that title comes from, that customer service, communication, and collaborations. We're really relying on each other in a virtual environment to really navigate learning research administration. So Mike, one more from the chat. Share another experience for someone who has been learning research administration in a virtual environment.
Yes, I was just reading Nicole Thompson's because, she actually had two separate roles and quite different experiences during COVID. One was disorganized. She said, in my first role, it was rough. They were digitally disorganized and they expected digital work, meaning 24/7 accessibility. And that I get it. People have to learn. We are all learning this together. We all went into this together, and we all have to give all organizations that have never had remote work or learned how to implement something like that, they have to be able to, listen and have communication and open communication with their employees, because, otherwise it can be a struggle for one side or the other, and it won't be beneficial, In her new role, things have been much better, she said. There's clear locations for training materials, much more of an organizational system. Technology used to collaborate was better, and there's less micromanaging. So yeah, she touches on a lot of points there,
All right, so it seems like we're even starting to touch on a little bit of that work-life balance. Shameless plug, make sure you guys check out the FRAC for the rest of this week. One of my very favorite colleagues is going to be talking about work-life balance. I won't tell you who it is. I'll let you find out yourself. So we're going to go ahead and
first, let's touch base real quick, Shan. So you're new to research administration, completely new,
Yes,
right?
completely new.
Green, had no idea what we were talking about. So now that you're in it, what's your perspective on research administration when you started and where you're at now?
So first and foremost, I want to let everyone know that my experience, I'm coming from Orange County local government. I have about 9 years of experience working in the government sector. So I was able to come in with experience and budgeting and reading purchase orders. And, I had some great skills when it came to working with the department and being a liaison and serving others. But when I came into research administration, here's what got me. Here was the title, okay? The title is Post-Award Finance Specialist. So me being a fiscal support supervisor, I saw that and I was like, finance specialist, right? So I had no idea what research administration was. So when I started to look into research administration, I said, okay, so this is obviously nurturing a grant from start to finish. So I went in with one idea, right? And only to come into research administration and find out that it was a completely different language. But I was able to leverage those skills and all of those qualities that I came into research administration with. And this is why I'm glad that we're having this conversation. For anyone who isn't familiar with research administration, you are absolutely able to educate yourself as long as you stick to that customer service, communication, and collaborations. So yep, it has definitely been a journey.
So when I hired these three women, there's a question I always ask, what's your research administration superpower? Cassie just kind of stared at me like I was crazy. Like, I'm not sure I know what that means. And she threw out like, oh, I'm really organized. And I asked Deanna, and she gave me a really professional answer about how organized she is and everything. And I asked Shannon, she was like, I don't know. She had no idea, and it was the most honest answer. So I had to commend her for that then. But becoming a research administrator, it's so much more than just what you do, right? like you've got subs and you've got us, and it's grants, and so grants accounting. So that's why we have so many the different people here today, is to get a perspective on the post award and how, like, taking this virtual, it wasn't easy at first. There was a lot of trials and tribulations, and we had to start it on 2 new systems, HRS and the new upgrade for PeopleSoft. And so I think it's really interesting to hear the different perspectives, because you all three come from a different background with it, but you're all learning the same thing now.
Yes.
So now we're going to move into, what'd you say?
Now we're going to be moving into those challenges. We promised you all that we would be discussing challenges and best practices. It's so great to hear these answers from the audience. It sounds like you all are able to really
Mike, can you read
identify
some of
with
those?
this.
Of course. Let's see. We got,
Oh, I love that. We got a superpower in there. Read that one.
where's the superpower? Oh, wow. All right. L. Jones, my RA superpower is knowing how to use my social capital with central administration.
All
I
right.
like it.
That's awesome.
What else? Do we got?
Heather said, you kind of fall into the research administration role. To Andrea, I find it is ever changing, so it keeps you on your toes. Yes, it does. We walk the gray line every day, and I love that,
Kind of fell into research administration too. I remember being interviewed, and I was like, did they call the right Mary Davis? 'Cause I don't remember like applying for this position. So I kind of fell in that too.
I love it all. Okay, Mike, so let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. So we're going to keep it going with challenges in virtual go back one more. We're going to keep it going with challenges and learning, research administration in a virtual environment. And heading that off, we're going to have Cassie.
Yes, can we move on to the next slide, please? All right, so something we want to ask you all, whether you're new or you're a veteran, is what have some of your challenges been going virtually, and how have you been able to manage those challenges? And I think that I'll start us off by saying when I started, I did not know what to really expect as far as learning my position online. I think I was one of the first individuals.
You were the first. You were the
Yeah,
first. Yeah.
I was the test subject on, how do we train? How do we train our staff, virtually? And I was used to being in office. I was used to face-to-face interactions. And I think I mentioned earlier, I asked a lot of questions too. So having that face-to-face interaction is helpful for me as I'm processing the things that I need to process. But the way that was managed was with the systems being in place, having everything set up, making sure we had the essentials such as Zoom and Teams, which are still to this day one of the major interactions we use virtually, just to connect, just to be able to ask the question, be able to talk through some things. And so I thought that would have been maybe my biggest challenge. I think that they navigated it very well for me. We also asked some of our colleagues within a survey, what some of their challenges have been, just to get some insight from their perspective. And a common response was, making sure we had that work-life balance.
And I see on some of the comments here is, one of the biggest challenges is learning to walk away from work.
Yeah.
That they seem to do more work now than they did in the office. That I'm a testament to that. I'll sit in there sometimes at 9 o'clock at night, and then I'm like, why is Cassie still online, or why is Shan online? And they're like, why are you still online? And I'm like, hey, do as I say, not as I do.
I call them out, Mary. I'll call them up and be like, what are you still doing on right now?
Yeah.
Will you please? The work will be here tomorrow. Come on.
Yeah, and I see another, response is not everyone's as invested. And that's a true statement. Like sometimes you feel like you're giving so much, and then, well, that person really did log off at 5 o'clock. Are they really as invested as me? So it's been a learning curve for everyone. Deanna, what are some of your challenges for being virtual?
Well, I have to say that because I am a face-to-face, like I'm a people person, so I really get energy from not just but the interaction with the person, not the exchange of information, but the interaction with the person. I know that there's personality that's draining. For me, it's energizing. So not having that, it's one of the challenges, and understanding how we can balance that. And so I think that one of the things that we do very well within the challenge of not having that face-to-face is using Zoom to have one-on-one time. And whether it's with my supervisor, it's that weekly meeting where she's checking off, what's going on, what are your, what are your challenges this week? Is there anything going on that just knowing that I have that time with her, it's very important. Also, and this goes more into the best practices, but we have a model in our unit for new hires where you get paired up with a mentor. And I can tell you that has been the most phenomenal experience in my entire professional career, because the manager is the director is always, supervisor is always so busy that having a person, we all are busy, but having a person that doesn't have all those managerial roles added to their tasks, daily tasks, is very important. So I had access to that person that really was, having time one-on-one. Another challenge for me is that I was used my entire professional career to get the ground running in any new position. And in this position, to this day, I still need hand holding. And I have told my colleagues sometimes it is embarrassing to me. And so they, not even once, they have extended so much grace that not even once they have made me feel that, yeah, you should know this by now. They have embraced me with grace, and we were all in the same boat. It takes a lot. And with my mentor, she would say, well, this is a unique case because it's different because this or this or this. And I said, okay, a unique case. The next one, well, this one is unique because it's different because this or this or this. And then I said, wait a second, we have 4 unique ones in a row. So no two things were alike to where you can systematically get to A, B, C, D, and so that becomes a challenge.
And I've had to tell Deanna many times, like, as long as I've been doing this, I still go to my mentor, Jennifer Chamberg, almost daily. I don't know what to say or how to do this, Jennifer. Can you chime in and help? And so you're never going to know it all. I feel like you could probably do this for 30 years and things change so fast and so often, you're never going to know it all. And it's still about that learning. I learn something new every day. I still mess up every day too. So give yourself grace and just give yourself time to come into it. And it's hard. You're not face to face. You can't walk into my office and say, hey, Mary, how would you do this? I can't walk into Brenda's office and be like, so I don't know how to do this. Can you help me understand this process? Now it all has to be through Skype or through an email. And that's another challenge, is understanding the tone of emails, right?
Yes.
Because at least when we're here, I could pop over to campus and go see one of my research admins at the college level and say, I think we're not on the same page. Let's get on the same page. And it was just something like, oh, I didn't mean to type in all caps, but I did.
Right.
So what are some of your challenges?
So some of my challenges with learning research administration has been just learning the language, right? Learning how to read an award, learning how to communicate with the departments to understand exactly what's being requested. So that's where that training really comes in. For anyone who's new to research administration, I attended the SRAI.
Yes.
The SRAI training, and it's a great training because it really gives you the foundation for research administration. I attend almost every frac, right? How great is frac to be able to pop in once a week, learn something new, brush up on something that maybe you didn't catch the first time. And then finally, making sure that I cling to that 2 CFR 200 for dear life, because it truly is our Bible. So I've been able to navigate the challenge of learning how to read the awards, learning how to understand what's being requested by not only working with my mentor, but really maintaining that communication, that collaborative piece, picking up the phone instead of doing the email thing back and forth and saying, hey, let me make sure that I understand this right. This is what you're requesting, because I can't take for granted that the person who sent the request knew exactly how to request it as well. So that's what's really been helpful with navigating some of the challenges that I face being brand new to research administration.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Let's see what some of the comments are, Mike. What do we got?
Hey, Mary. So I was reading Teresa Gonzalez's question. I'm comment, and I don't know if she's in research administration in the department level, but she was saying that it's harder to get to know her PIs and develop those relationships. And it's so interesting to me to read that, because like for me, this going remote and having the Zoom and the access to and Skype and these types of virtual accesses gives my PIs more opportunity to speak with me than ever before. We're off campus at UCF down the street, and I can't just walk over like I used to in my prior position and go see a PI when something's going on, and I don't have that ability to just walk and go develop that relationship. But over the past year and a half, 2 years, I mean, I've met with more on this type of a face-to-face level where they feel that they can come to me for certain things and really just, where an email might not suffice, or you're not getting that communication through with the email. They know that they can just Skype me or Zoom me, and we're right there, and we're knocking things down and overcoming those barriers. So it's interesting to see that versus if you're on a department level, and if you're in an office of research.
I think you have a different perspective, Mike, because you did know your faculty or your research admins at the college level. For new people, it's important to have that bond with your faculty or your PI or your college admin. Like I know that when I'm talking to Melissa Crawford through Skype, I know Melissa. I've met Melissa. I've had lunch with Melissa. But for Shan, when she's working with one of the faculty from computer science, she doesn't have that relationship because she's never met them.
Yeah.
They've never been able to put a face to a name. And so I think it's really important while being virtual to make that connection. But you guys are at a disadvantage. I don't have the same advantage that we do. I can go to campus and I know Dr. McLeod. I can walk to her office and have a conversation. You don't know Dr. McLeod. You've never met her other than a couple of Skypes or Zooms, and it's hard. It's different. It's difficult, and it's important to have that bond because that's when you know the tone of the email, right? You know that they're not just all capping you because they're mad at you. That's just how they email, right?
There are two things that stood out to me during that particular discussion. One of them being how do you go about in developing that relationship from the perspective of being new? And one of the things I remember in a few of my first encounters with the PIs for the first time is Mary coming to me and being like, hey, we can do this together. We can introduce you, we can, meet the PI, we can have these discussions, we can help you, through these conversations. So that has been really beneficial, and I'm thankful for that. Something else that a colleague had mentioned actually in the survey was having either weekly or even monthly follow-ups with the PI in the department, making sure that we are making sure they don't need anything, or if they do need something, what their requests are. But that's a great way to maintain and manage, those relationships as
Absolutely.
So good. So I believe now you were going to talk to us about virtual communication and how you can navigate that.
I think that we have touched on a couple of things in terms of the tone of the email. For me, it's the intentionality of understanding what is it that they're requesting. Why am I part of this email? Sometimes it's just for informational purpose only. They want to keep me on the loop. Sometimes it's just, this, and it's in the middle of the paragraph or at the end of the email that you missed it. And so I have to read and read again to make sure I'm not missing. And sometimes I just go back and say, let me know how I can help. So then, it's more if I'm not sure if something is asked of me, because on my end, I know there's a couple things pending before I can get to action. There something from contract that we're waiting or things like that.
Absolutely. All right, Mike, let's go ahead and let's look at a few of these comments. We come from a unique
Beautiful.
situation. I actually met more people face to face after COVID. No, there's some great comments on here. It's right here. Consistency is key. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those, I have one of my award managers. She actually is doing a pilot with one of the colleges on their communication through Teams. They have this whole setup in Teams, and that's where they communicate. And that's where they know, hey, these are my priority lists. These are not my priority lists, but I don't want them to fall off your radar. So keeping consistent with how you communicate with the department is essential, especially when you're remote. And we have some of our faculty and staff that are back on campus. And so it's great that they are feeling that they can Skype us. They Skype me, they Zoom me, they Teams me. And it's good that they have that leverage to us too. But also being in office, you're able to go over and see them and look at their labs and understand their research. And that's really important to your relationship with your faculty. Mike, let's go ahead and
that's something I miss.
Yeah,
I do. But let me just comment on one other thing. Jeanette mentioned going virtual has allowed me to let staff set their hours as long as we have an overlap time. Financial tasks can be done almost any time after the details are known. So I have staff that have scattered start times, and some do take time off for child pickup, etc., and then go back on, at other times. But the flexibility of going virtual has made quite a difference for their mental health, and that is something that's so important. And I'm plugging tomorrow's presentation of mine during lunch, but it's that work-life balance. That's what it all gets back to, and thank you, Jenna, for doing that for your employees when you can, because it's important.
Let's go ahead and pop into our next slide, Mike.
Yes.
All right, so it looks like we were starting to discuss some strategies and best practices for how to, successfully learn research administration in a virtual environment. So, Ashley, why don't you tell us a little bit more about that colleague survey that we did?
Yeah, so I mean, we've touched on two major points that were presented, which was communicating, and the other one was work-life balance. And we actually have a reference guide that will be provided to each review at the end of our presentation that provides tips and strategies for working virtually. So you can just keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. So if you're in the audience, go ahead and feel free to comment some of your strategies and best practices for success and virtual award management as well. And we'll be happy to read some of those and discuss that.
Yeah, I think for me, some of the in terms of practices that I am growing to love, it's learning different people that have different expertise. So being able to say, well, I'm not sure about the answer, but I know where to go because this person has specialized. Like if I have a National Science Foundation, I go to Srila because And so the other day we had a question and we went to Brenda and she was like, yes, it's this. And it was so reassuring that that's the environment that we foster within our teams. It's just having that access where it's not one's against the other, but it's just we're here together. We want this to flow naturally. So that's definitely a best practice.
It's really important to have that communication with your sister units because we can't do our job without grants accounting. We can't do our job without the proposal team. The sub-award team. Most people don't realize how much we work with sub-awards also. And so again, you guys are a little bit at a disadvantage because you haven't gotten to meet all the grant accountants and you haven't gotten to see the sub-award units. You've met maybe a handful of proposal people online. But like today, y'all met Jennifer Shambrick for the first time, right? So you guys have a little bit of a disadvantage, but it's great that we as the leadership, we communicate well together and that it flows down to you guys where y'all can email Brenda or you can email Tamaria or, Celeste or Stephanie, and you have that great feedback from them. And there's a lot of times where it'll cause us to have better communication and sit down and think like, what's the best strategy for us to not have this be a worry later on down the line. All right, what you got up there? Communication.
So Tia was saying that in clinical trials, her manager provides them a rubric of responsibilities, and it's broken down daily and weekly and monthly, and it helps with what they need to keep up with. And she said, it helps to make sure that they're not missing anything, and that kind of it kind of relates to that time, those times back when I was just starting over in the Office of Research over here at UCF, and I'd go to Mary and, I'd say, hey, Mary, I got 4 hours of this and 3 hours of this. And she'd say, Mike, just hold on, just, block off those times for yourself. It's important to make sure that you schedule out things that are priorities so that you can visually see it so that it doesn't get, mixed up with anything else or just, filed away somewhere, and I think, that's a pretty cool concept that Tia has there.
All right, Mike, let's go to the next slide.
You got it.
Now me and Brenda and Tamaria, we're gonna kind of share some of our experiences with moving to a virtual office. Brenda, what are some of the positives and the negatives you've had with your team?
Well, I'm listening to what each person's been saying. We've had the challenge of interviewing someone virtually and then having never met the person, which was very new for us related to not seeing them face to face before you made a decision.
Right.
And then Mary did the same thing I did, is we made sure that on the day they started, we came to the office, so we can meet the person face to face. And although they wouldn't be working here, we walked them through the maze, and give them the supplies, and then, got them on their way. So I think challenging, very challenging to train, because there's such a huge learning curve. You have the research administration piece, and then you have the challenges of our financial system. So,
Yes.
And I think in some areas it took a little longer than we would have liked because you just didn't have that face to face. So you spend a lot more time getting through some of those technical details. And then with team members not knowing each other, we have a nice sized team. So we have people that never met each other face to face. And so that's something that will change this year, because we're going to start to have some. I just hope that the pandemic, keeps at bay, but we're hoping to have some regular meetings monthly to get to know one another and get that team going, because you can create these silos. And I just don't like, some people have never met each other. And so you just need to foster that as a team. It's been positive, I think, and negative from the ability of people disconnecting. So some people are working late and you see it, and I've done the same thing. What are you doing? And so
Well, they don't ask you, why are you online too?
they'll say the same thing. They'll say the same thing, and then Michelle will be contacting you. Now she doesn't stop. So it's just like, okay, you should not contact me. But for those that know Michelle, our director, we love her dearly. But we, on the other side, I think it's made people more productive, and they keep going, and then you can stop and take a break. And so it's been positive that people are really enjoying working remote, and it's really just a great thing our leadership's done for us, because I know some other universities are still struggling with that. And so it's good that UCF's made that decision. So people just have to disconnect, have an effective work-life balance, and keep pushing toward the goals.
Hey, Tamaria, what can you share with some of your challenges and things that have been easy?
Well, I would definitely agree with Brenda, just a little about it being challenging, but very rewarding. So I'm definitely pro remote work. Let me just say that my entire team was hired and trained remotely. So the team that I manage, completely remote. Some were very new to actually administering subawards, some were not. So it was very challenging to bring somebody into this environment, get them to learn all of the systems, as Brenda said, our financial systems, our Huron, our enterprise system that manages our grants, and understand the nuances of everything that we do. So training could be a challenge. What I did enjoy also, though, about the training was that I was even more hands-on with the training. Instead of doing, one-on-ones, it really made me have to grow in my teaching and training abilities to create computer-based learning. I love Zoom, being able to record your actual trainings and actually walk through the tasks that needed to be completed. Because for me, I have to put my hands on something in order to learn that, and being able to actually walk through processes. That was really different. So it was challenging, but it had its advantages. And again, with all of the electronics that we have with the Skypes, the Zoom, the Teams, because we do use all of them, being available. I think I'm more available now than I ever was available at first. For the people that work at UCF, my office used to be right across from the women's bathroom and right next to the break room. So it was a party all the time in my hallway, right in front of my office. So I would literally have to close the door to try to get something done or anything done, because people want to pop in. People would, if you see me, you're going to come in and you want to chat. So it would be very disruptive. Now, not so many distractions, not as destructive. It's a little more structured, even though you have that availability because you have your Zoom, your Skype routines. People can just informally pop in. I have a question without scheduling a meeting. it has its challenges and its advantages. But I love it. I enjoy it very much so. And my team is thriving, working remotely and having been onboarded remotely.
Yeah, same with the award management. We're thriving. I mean, we're bringing in, we're processing more awards than we ever have. We are building great relationships with our sister units because we have to work with them. We have to manage that. And I think some of the biggest challenges for me is I'm a very approachable leader. We're constantly, Mike, sometimes I'll be like, Mike, you can only come to my office 3 more times for the rest of the day. But I feel like I'm less accessible now because I feel like I go to more meetings. I feel like I do more meetings now than I did when we were face to face. And face to face, I can make that time to sit with Cassie or to sit with Shan. We used to do lunches where we would all kind of get together and catch up and talk about some things that we're going through. So some of the ways I've been able to offset not being as available is I set up meetings with my newer staff, and we have like little 30-minute meetings once a week where I just kind of, this is your time. Tell me how you feel. You can complain, cry, laugh, whatever you need to do. This is your time with me. If you want to ask questions, we ask questions. We also did a weekly meeting for an hour where all 3 of them would come, and I'd have 2 of my other senior award managers, and they'd come in and they just ask questions. Like Cassie's always got great questions. So it was just a time for them to come in, ask questions. And I could pop in and out and be like, here's how I think about it. And then they also had the other 2 people who were mentoring that could also give answers. So it's just been about great communication and keeping everybody like it's okay. But being remote, my team is definitely thriving, and there's positives and negatives to the whole thing, right? We probably work more than we should. I know I'm on there Saturday and Sundays. I'd be like, why is Brenda online? But I'm gonna leave her alone because I'm busy too. And I miss being able to come into your office and distract you from Maria.
Me too.
We miss being able to walk into Maria's office to distract her.
Definitely isolation, I think, is an issue, I would say. Because I am a social person. I loved working remotely. I did have that experience prior to this position, so I was very familiar with it. So I was easily able to transition into it, but you don't realize how much you miss that social interaction and how much it impacts your work when you cannot interact with your team or your colleagues and your coworkers. I missed it a lot. Like for example, me and Mary managed very different teams, but we would have team lunches all the time. We would go to lunch together as a team. And because we work so closely together, it helped us to better collaborate. Any issues that we had in our process, we could easily work that out. And it just created a really wonderful collaborative team, cross-functional environment for us. So we miss not being able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see we have a comment where it says, no one factors in time between meetings. We were just talking about that before this meeting started, because sometimes I'll be like, all right, guys, I'm 2 minutes late for the meeting that started 3 minutes ago. I gotta go. And Deanna was like, I try to let's take 10 minutes and get a glass of water or go use the restroom, or just move away from your desk. So that's a great comment. I don't factor that in. I literally bounce from one meeting to the next.
Meeting to meeting.
And then I'm like, what's that uncomfortable feeling? It's like, oh, I haven't left my desk.
No lunch today. Exactly.
Right.
You're hungry.
So yeah, great comments. And just having some time in between those meetings, it's important to give yourself that little bit of time. All right, Mike, what's our next slide?
We got it. Let's see what we got.
All
All right.
right.
Now,
So-
Mary, did you want me to throw up the AMO resource manual?
No,
thing?
we're gonna send it out, Mike, afterwards.
Okay, beautiful.
But please, guys, feel free to pop on your mics or pop some more conversation into the chat. Things that you like, this has helped, if it's helped, or things that you still find challenging. It's great to collaborate with other people to see how they're handling it, how they're dealing with it. So anybody's got anything, please feel free.
Hey, Mary Jones, that's a great concept. Scheduling your meetings for 50 or 110 minutes to leave those little blocks in between.
Yeah, for sure.
Good strategy.
Well, I'll bring up a topic that I know that we at our institution definitely struggled with when we were going remote or, being asked to come back into the office is productivity. What is your experience with now, for the ones that are remote or working remote, finding that you are productive, that do you find that your people are less productive? What are your thoughts?
This is Letitia Jones. I'm going to say mine because it's too much to type. But in our institution, we have gone back into the office. And after working remotely for well over a year, I know I'm less productive because just like you guys say, people now are stopping by my office, even though I don't really want them in there, but they're still dropping by my office. They're chatting, they're stopping me from what I'm doing. When, when you think about the time it takes for you to get up in the morning, get ready, get dressed, drive to work, you could already be working. That's like maybe an hour and a half that I could already be working, just crawl out of bed and start working. And then on the other hand, when it starts getting late in the evening, in the afternoon, when it gets 5 o'clock, it starts getting dark. I don't really want to be on campus. So I leave, I stop, I go home, eat dinner, all this kind of stuff. When as if I was still working at home, some go down, I wouldn't care. I'm still upstairs working. So I know I was a lot more productive working from home.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that comes in that self-care portion, right? Like, how are you taking care of yourself, at home, because you are so much more productive? Like, what are some of your strategies that keep you from sitting at that desk for 9 hours a day? What are some things you do that like, oh, I got to get up and drink some water. Hey, I need to go outside and take a walk.
Well, but I had a time schedule where I would walk during the day. I would take 30 minutes and go outside and walk, or I have a stationary bike, and so I exercise. So, and I would get up and eat lunch and make me lunch and maybe take a 30-minute break or something like that. But like I say, a lot of time it's just more concentrated. I don't have to get up. I don't have to go out, get dressed, take all that extra time. Just put my sweats on, wash my face, whatever, let's go. Let's do this.
Absolutely. That's what I was saying right before this started is sometimes I'll be in a meeting with Brenda or I'm brushing my teeth. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I just ate lunch, and I'll sit there and brush my teeth and do what I got to do to get ready. You had a dog and a cat that the animals definitely do. My team, when we were in office, I have a service dog, and sometimes it would be like 5 or 6 hours into the day, and I've noticed nobody's left their office. And I'd be like, all right, guys, come on, let's have a team meeting. And we'd all go and walk my dog around the building. And I'd take everybody with me, and we would just talk and like, where's everybody at? How's everybody's heads today? Complaints, thoughts, worries. So it's important to make sure you get up and take care of yourself for sure. Oh, thank God mine's not little anymore. I don't have to worry about little kids interrupting me.
Well, I see a comment from Jennifer about performance metrics. Our performance metrics show that our productivity has increased. That has helped us make a case for staying remote and literally giving up our office space. And I think that is very important when you are petitioning to try to be remote. Everything is definitely metrics driven. So having systems in place to be able to track what you are doing and how you are performing, especially here in research, sponsored programs and research, literally nothing sits. Like if we are not working or we're not producing, trust somebody is going to hear about it. We can't have projects sitting, not being set up, proposals not being submitted. So that's just not the nature of what we do. We have to be producing. And if we're not producing, it's going to definitely show, but it's good to have systems in place to capture those metrics, when you are petitioning to be remote and showing that productivity, because that's what upper leadership and your executive leadership is going to want to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. That was really key because we were already metric driven and our staff was already used to working independently with their work for the most part. So when you already have that foundation of the metrics, you could easily prove and see the increase. So it was easier to prove and make the case because you saw that there wasn't a slack off of numbers and you could just see things continue to increase.
Well, because that was a big worry, right? Is that numbers were going to fall and work wasn't going to get done as well, and for it to completely be opposite and it just took off. It was great to have those metrics and to be able to see that and to show your team that. You know, I'm able to say like one of my team members is her name's Christine, and I was able to like pull some metrics and be like, whoa, like this is how many awards you entered in the past like 6 months, and so. You know, like it's great that we're able to show the increase. It's good for morale. It's good for leadership. It's a good thing for sure. Let's see what we got. Hi to everyone else. I'm a list person too. Shan was actually talking this earlier about she likes to have like 8 to 9. That's when she does her email, the important emails every day. I'm the person like the first thing I want to do in the morning is all the things I don't like to do. So I get up and I do all the tasks that I don't like to do at work, and then I get to do the fun stuff like have Zooms and meet with my colleagues and stuff. So I think it's great to have that list that you can check things off of.
Yeah, understanding what parts of the day you're more productive and maybe tackling the hard tasks first, right?
Yeah, like Jennifer said, do it before you're completely awake. Absolutely. Well, guys, it's been a great session. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been, I think it's been helpful. It's great to kind of have that conversation and just get it out there. And it's changed everybody. You know, the pandemic has changed everyone. So thank you guys for joining us. You'll be getting our PowerPoint will be posted, and they put together a little reference guide for tips and tricks for what they do. And if you ever have any questions, please, I'm always available through email. So you guys have a great one. If there's no more questions, you're ready to go to your next session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.